We are really fortunate to welcome back a great Trojan and a great entrepreneur, Josh Berman. Josh has been at the forefront of technology and macro changes in the way we connect with each other and now transact business. He started on the practical path, but quickly found that the logical and steady career wasn't for him. Along with another USC grad, Krista Wolf, Josh co-founded MySpace, the pioneer in social networking and connecting us in our daily lives. In only 3 years, they built MySpace into a behemoth with 150 million users and 40 billion page views per month. 40 billion page views per month. It's staggering. In just 3 years, they sold MySpace to Fox. And now, he's the co-founder and CEO of Beachmint. Beachmint is the next generation e-commerce platform with a focus on fashion and lifestyle brands. Their mission is to deliver their own exceptional branded goods at insider prices and to connect consumers directly with brands and designers. Their 4 verticals, Jewel Mint, Shoe Mint, Style Mint, and Intimate, operate on a subscription model with hand-selected partners to curate the best in each category. Beachmint is backed by a who's who in the venture capital community: Excel Partners, Goldman Sachs, Pritzker Group, Trinity Partners, and Anthem. Let's take a look at Beachmint. Here to share his story and how to turn ideas into big markets, please welcome a great Trojan, Josh Berman. Josh. Welcome.
What a great intro.
Thank you very much. Have a seat. Welcome back.
You told me Pete Carroll was here. That's why. What happened?
Bait and switch.
Oh, I love it. What a win.
It was not a bad time. Not a bad time. It's great to have you back. Home turf. This is a home game for you.
This is great. Yep.
When did you go here?
I was here for business school in 1995 to 1997, and actually ended up meeting my partners that I ended up doing many, many businesses with. So it's always good to be back. I speak here a bunch. I go to the games, and it's always easy to come back here. And what a great class you got with amazing speakers.
Thanks, Will.
And I don't know how you got on that plane, but I've been trying to get Ben on that plane for a long time. That looked pretty amazing. In 20 minutes, by the way, I had a few friends. I wasn't able to go to the game. I had a sleepover for my kid as well, but everybody that went was complaining how long it took to get out of New Jersey, and they're cursing this the senator or the guy that runs Christie, and you got out in 20 minutes. Everyone's saying it was like 3 hours, and they had the worst experience. So it's pretty amazing. You got a good professor here.
No, it's nothing to do with me. It was all him. It felt like we were in a zombie movie. We drove to the game, and we got through every tunnel with a special pass, and there was no traffic. There were no cars, and we got to the game 3 hours early. We didn't know what to do with ourselves because there was no traffic. But it's the world of Ben and the world of Berman. So it's nice to sort of circle in that orbit. Why don't we sort of start with a little bit about your background?
Sure.
They saw a little bit about Beachmint. We're going to talk about MySpace, but the part of the class is to give context. Since a lot of our stories are told in retrospective. Yes, now I'm successful and I've got these great companies, but people need to sort of see what you came from and how you did it. So do you mind if we just sort of spend a couple of minutes on your background?
I'm good. I'm here. There's no tweets. I feel I'm a little mic'd, so I'll still be ready to go. Anything you need.
Thanks. All right. So let's just start out with sort of where were you born, grew up, where are you from?
It's funny, for my whole career, and I really believe a lot in Southern California. I grew up in Southern California. Gone to all my schooling in Southern California, including USC for business school. Grew up surfing a lot in Malibu, so I had to go to a school that had surf, so I ended up, crazy enough, my only school I wanted to go to was Santa Barbara, so I ended up at UC Santa Barbara. And it's super important to me. I'm very passionate. My mic's going in and out, but I'll talk loudly if we lose it. No sound, and I don't know what's going on with USC here, just kidding around.
No, we'll take care of it, don't worry.
Pressure on him. But I grew up in Calabasas, which is not too far away from here. I still live I live in the west side in Pacific Palisades now, and I started my first company actually in the South Bay down in Manhattan, or Hermosa Beach at the time. So truly am Southern California, love the lifestyle, been everywhere around the world. I would never live anywhere else, and it's the best place for home base, and you guys are at an amazing school, which is getting better and better.
Not bad. Nice little promo there. So how large is your family? How many kids in the family?
My family, I have one brother. I'm 44. Oh man, I stopped counting. I think I'm 44.
You have to put that in there.
I'm 40-ish. I have one brother that's 2 years younger than me, and we're very close now. He ended up surfing and going down the coast to San Diego, and he never left. But I grew up in a family in Calabasas. My parents separated when I was 10. I do have kids now that are 10 and 11, so it was an interesting experience I had. I always say I always had the benefit. I try to look the most positive in every situation. I had the benefit of having two families to go to for every occasion. But both of them were in Calabasas, one in Woodland, one in Calabasas. So I had a great childhood growing up here and pretty much taking a beach bus to Malibu every day from Calabasas. So that's my...
Not bad. And do you mentioned a brother and that you guys are quite different. How, give us an example of what he's up to these days and how it's maybe different than how you do things.
I do live a little vicariously through my brother, to be honest. I still think he thinks he's at UC San Diego. He is, I call him, I don't know if you guys remember Cosmo Kramer from Seinfeld, but he's very similar to that. His hair is not as big, but almost. And he can never commit to anything, whereas I like to find an idea or find something I'm passionate about and spend all my time and energy on it for all my businesses. I'm not the type that consults and has 15 different projects, and my brother's exactly like that. So he's kind of the opposite. And as far as personally, he's living the bachelor lifestyle down in San Diego. In fact, there's this TV show, which I've never watched. I watched it once because my brother was on it. It's called Millionaire Matchmaker. It was very embarrassing for the Berman family, but I had to suffer through that and explain to my kids why their uncle was very strange. So that aired last month. So I'd say my brother is definitely quite different, but he does possess the same entrepreneurial genes. And if we're together, we do look. I always say he might be maybe a little bit better looking, and smarter. But he's very similar personality to me.
I'm glad we got that on tape. We'll
exactly.
send it to him.
Sorry, Eric.
And what did your parents do for work?
My parents, on my father's side, my father and my grandfather are local from Los Angeles as well. My grandfather is very entrepreneurial. He actually started the first movie theater called Pacific. It's still around, Pacific Theaters. And he was part of the team that founded that, brought that to LA, always did commerce. And my father was very entrepreneurial as well. He had everything from furniture stores to car body shops. One right down here on right by Felix's, right close to USC. I could literally walk there. It was where my dad had a body shop when I was a kid growing up, and I remember bad furniture and wacky people, but he fixed a lot of cars. And it was a great experience to see that. And then on my mom's side, who comes from the East Coast, from Connecticut, and it turns out my wife is from Connecticut. It's kind of weird how that all happens, but East Coast influence a lot more conservative, and has always been in law firms or office type jobs. And she's very hard worker, and she's still working to this day. And in fact, after she saw me go to Santa Barbara and realized this is a pretty incredible town, she decided to move there. So she's been up there ever since.
Oh, so close by. So talk about sort of early jobs. It sounds like you've been working since, I think, 15, you told me. What are some of the jobs that you had, before you went to school and during school and you became a big-time entrepreneur?
Yeah, it's quite different. I've seen those planes and those apartments in New York. I definitely didn't have that. I did everything starting at 15. I had to work to pretty much pay for my CDs or my Record of the Month Club, which I kind of ingested that information and what Ben did, and kind of later on in life, I have my own of the Month Club. But I'm digressing a little bit, but I did everything from picking up trash to working at Domino's Pizza to working at Miss Fields Cookies to working in hot kitchens. So you name it, I did it from 15 all the way through college. So I got quite a vast experience of what it takes and watching different companies thrive and amazing entrepreneurs, people that started Miss Fields herself to the Domino's Pizza guy. It's incredible how much hard work I had to do, but I always saw like, oh my God, these owners were just absolutely crushing it. And I just kind of wanted that. So it's great to experience that. As I think it's led me to appreciate hard work and what it takes to make it. And obviously I ended up somehow getting into this institution and leveraging kind of all the hard work I did as a kid and through college to kind of further my career.
So you went to UCSB, majored in surfing, and what else?
I don't know how I made it in 4 years, but somehow I got out of there in 4 years. Growing up too, from working, I was given the choice to go to any school I wanted in the country as long as it started with UC, primarily because it was very cheap. It was $500. I shouldn't say this while on tape, but it was $500 a semester, so it was $1,500 a year, which my parents were like, that's where you're going. So I had to study hard and get into a UC school, and of course I picked the one that had the best waves. And I studied, again, talking with my conservative parents, I had no idea. Probably some of you guys know what you want to do. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to surf and have a lot of fun and somehow get out of the school in 4 years, but I heard accounting paid the most. So my mom said, like, hey, find the job that pays, or no, it was my dad that's more entrepreneurial, find the job that pays the most. And it was kind of a conservative route, but there was like this test called a CPA test. I didn't realize it was a 3-day-long test. I probably wouldn't have done it, but it was brutal, and I ended up studying for that and started taking some accounting. They didn't have accounting majors. They do at USC. Santa Barbara was called business economics. So I kind of felt like, wow, this thing pays $30,000 a year. When I graduate, I'm gonna be an accountant. That sounds like pretty good. So I ended up starting my career in accounting.
In accounting, and how long, and what was the name of the firm that you worked with?
Worked at a firm called Coopers & Lybrand.
Very good firm.
Out of downtown Los Angeles, which is now PricewaterhouseCoopers.
And how long did it take you working there, getting that experience before you realized maybe this isn't the best, the highest value of your time?
Probably,
or necessarily for you.
It was quicker than you got out of New York back to the plane. It's probably like first couple weeks or so, I'm like, man, this is not the right career for me. And it was just, I realized that, but to be an accountant, you have to actually also get professional experience. So I knew I had to stay there for 2 years to become a certified public accountant. And even though I knew like I wasn't going to do this the rest of my life, I kind of had this sense, maybe it was due to all the hard work and my upbringing, like I had to stick it out for the 2 years. So I was in a situation where this is definitely not my career, but I tried to make the best of those 2 years. And I was able to kind of weasel myself into meetings with great CEOs and CFOs. Not that I said anything in these meetings, but I was at least there and present and kind of like a sponge, soaked in as much as I could from some good leaders when I was not hungover, because I was 22 years old at the time. And I remember some things, and but I did realize, hey, I got to get out of here. So I think I made it to 2 years and 2 days in the accounting profession.
But it is a good thing for them to hear. It does require you to pay some dues sometimes and do things that you don't always love. You hear all these people, oh, do what you love. Well, it may not be every day of your life, and particularly as a young person, to get the skills, and you'll see where it goes from here, that there are really valuable things that he learned being in accounting and learning finances and the people with whom you meet at a firm like that. I mean, you're working for the who's who of the Fortune 500s, and so there's value to that. So I get a lot of students who are just like, I just started a job and this isn't for me. I want to start my own company. I don't know what I want to do yet, but it's like it's too early to leave sometimes. You got to stick it out a little bit.
Yeah, I definitely put in, people, you talk about doing your dues. I mean, countless hours at a copy machine or just adding up numbers and say, yep, it adds up. And I don't think we had Excel back then. I wish we did. I probably wouldn't have had a job if we had Excel. But I definitely had to recheck all the math in the spreadsheets. And I definitely put in the dues. I realized both accounting and to this day, being a business owner and entrepreneur, you're like, man, I got to hire these accountants and lawyers, and it's whatever. At the time it was like $100 an hour. I think lawyers are like $500 an hour now. And I was being billed out. I was getting paid $15 an hour and billing my clients like 100 or 150 an hour. And I'm like, man, these guys are making a lot of money off of me. But had to do it, stuck it out, and it's definitely put it in the hours.
And from shifting forward, you decided you wanted to get a little bit more exposure to entertainment, so you worked in-house at Fox, right?
I did.
What did you do for them?
Yeah, so leveraging, knowing I was going to leave, being in Southern California, I did have the chance to work with a lot of studios, and I felt like I know I'm not going to be an accountant or a banker for my career. Let me figure out how to get myself networked enough and to get into the industry, which I thought, and in fact, what I really enjoyed, which was the entertainment business. So through contacts and networking while I was an accountant and an auditor, I was able to get a great job interview at Fox, at News Corp, which is a common theme. That's why you don't burn bridges. They've been in my life 3 times now, the people at Fox. And I don't even think Rupert Murdoch has a cool enough house as Guthrie over there. But I've never seen that kind of house. But it was interesting. My first opportunity was to go to Fox, and I did that through the finance angle that I had as an auditor, and I worked in corporate finance at 20th Century Fox for, again, 2 years. Probably the but this time maybe it lasted like 3 or 4 months, realizing it's probably not going to be, for me, a finance degree, and staying in finance wasn't going to be my career progression. But I still did everything I could, and I took a lot out about how the television business works, how the film business works, how the home video business works, what they're doing for interactive. And I was able to meet and network enough people, and kind of had my eye on going back to business school.
So you apply and you stay local. You come back to USC for your MBA, and you alluded to the people you met, and we're going to talk about them and how important they've been to your life. So, what did you take from being at USC? And then I want to talk about some people that you met along the way. But coming back to USC, what was your goal in getting an MBA?
At the time, was not making much money, and I'm just like, I do not like this career. So I said, I might as well just double down, go into major debt, and go back to business school. So I decided to do 2 years of business school. And first I'll thank UCLA because they didn't accept me. So I'm glad that happened. Ended up over here, which really, you call it a little bit of luck or call it fate, whatever. I met the most amazing fellow classmates. And I think that's, to me, the most I got out of being here at USC and in business school. I just met so many amazing people from around the world. I mean, guys that I still talk to in Germany, guys I talk to in Asia, and just had an opportunity to meet incredible people and be in focus groups and study groups and case groups. And one individual person I met, I was actually at dinner with him last night. We're still very close. This is the person you mentioned earlier, Chris DeWolf. I met him in '95, first day, very like-minded, and ended up in a class. There's a professor there that's now doing a tech incubator here in LA. His name's Paul Barico. And Chris and I took his class and wrote a business plan together, realized we wanted to work together. It turned out to be not that business plan. And Paul gave us an A-. So we made him an advisor at our company, but we didn't give him as many shares as some of the other guys because of the A-. So but he's an amazing guy, and again, great professor that we had. And I think it was about, I'd say the most impactful things about business school was definitely networking, finding like colleagues that you wanted to do business with. I learned a ton. We were talking earlier about Professor Amalia and the Entrepreneur program that SC's had when I was there. We weren't in fancy buildings like this. It's quite improved. It wasn't even called Marshall at the time. It was just USC Business School, and it was still incredible experience. Just whatever it is about this school, I don't want to boost this guy up, but you guys attract some pretty good professors. So again, I learned a lot, and the faculty's very involved. I mean, these guys were advisors to all my companies after school's finished. Later on, not only did they help me with fundraising, I don't know if you spoke yet, from Kinko's Paul Orfila, who's incredible and came to speak at our entrepreneur program, and he actually invested in my first company. I don't know if I could tell that story, but he kind of came in and was just making sure people looked a little tired and they were partying, and he's like, were people partying, and why is everyone so tired? He's like, and I'm like nervous. I'm like, what? No. These guys are up all night and there's pizza boxes everywhere. He's like, I'm not investing unless these guys are out partying and having fun. I'm like, yeah, okay, you're right. And so he was quite an amazing mentor and advisor. And again, I met him through USC.
It's funny, on the way here, I was in our office, and Dr. Allen was there, and I said, how well do you know Josh? She goes, well, interestingly, Paul Orfila wrote the check to invest in his company in my office, and she pointed right to where it was. I was like, that's a little piece of history right there.
It's great.
It's great to hear. So from USC, you come here, you take entrepreneur classes, you're inspired by the professors, you're inspired by Tom O'Malley, a great mentor, and you soar out into the world, and what field do you go in next?
I did do the same thing I did in college, in undergrad, which is I figured out what would pay well. I still didn't know what I wanted to do, and I was 26 at the time, I believe. No, maybe 27. So I ended up at Cooper's again, PricewaterhouseCoopers Consulting. So I didn't know what I was going to do, and I wasn't ready. Opposite kind of my brother, who would do a million different things. So I decided, hey, let's stick with one thing. I ended up consulting, which is amazing for me. This was not, I think Google didn't start yet, and Yahoo was just out. The internet was just buzzing, and again, this was 96, 97. I ended up being able to consult a lot of companies on what's going to happen, what's going to evolve with the internet, and why everybody's going to be plugged in, and what the future would evolve. And I didn't know what I would do. I just knew I'd be a part of this. So again, I kind of went back to the conservative approach, found a really good high-paying job that I knew I wouldn't do forever, but I got the opportunity again. I was just aware of the situation to go and immerse myself and learn as much as possible.
That seems to be a theme that I think we'll see this arc in your life where you get to see these macro trends, and when you see them happening, you jump on them. You know, there's a lot of people that can sort of wait, no, let me see if it really crystallizes. But if you see the direction in which things are going, and what a great opportunity at the firm to meet with all these firms and go over digital strategies and what's happening, to be in those rooms sort of laid the foundation for what was next for you. So what was next, and who did you join with? So you mentioned Chris DeWolf. What was the first businesses that you sort of started in this great town we know as Hermosa Beach?
Yeah, so again, through a USC connection and a professor here, I don't know if he's still teaching, a gentleman named Brian Sullivan.
Sully.
So I don't know if you guys met, but
Sure.
you probably will. I was in business school with him, and he goes, Josh, you're consulting, all this internet thing's happening, what are you doing? You should really get up with my friend who's a PR person but knows nothing about the internet and what's happening. And so he made this introduction while I was at consulting. And every morning, like at 5 in the morning to 8 in the morning, I met with this person. And we were super excited. We still have those floppy disks. I don't know if you remember floppy disks, but I am dating myself. Okay, yeah, I'm in my 40s. There's floppy disks, and people were trying to store files, and email was just getting there, and attachments were too big, and you couldn't send around basic files. So we had this idea. It's pretty much Dropbox today, and I love those guys, but we had the same idea that Dropbox has today, which is, store all your stuff online and get access to your things. So we quickly pitched this to a lot of people we met through SC, and Paul invested in our company along with a few other folks, and had a great journey. This was back in 98, 99. You talk about stock bubbles. It was pretty wild back then. We had a lot of interesting investors. We ended up raising. I wasn't the CEO, I was the CFO, and we ended up raising $110 million, which was pretty awesome for LA. We were in Santa Monica. I'm jumping ahead, though. I did have a previous startup to this, which I'll go back to in a second, but I got so excited about thinking about this one because of Paul, and we ended up going bankrupt. So we had a good time spending $110 million and learned quite a bit. And I say paved the way for Dropbox, which is a multi-billion-dollar company today, and probably a lot of us use their services. But I did skip one. You're talking about Hermosa Beach, so I should go back.
All right. So go back to the company that you started before XDrive.
Yeah, definitely. So when I left USC and I was consulting, I was still very close to all my friends here at SC. We knew we were going to do some kind of business together. I was living down in Hermosa Beach, sharing an apartment with who's now my wife. It was my girlfriend at the time. And we decided, man, all these companies are getting online and starting to accept credit cards. So let's start a merchant account company. And we did that kind of moonlighting at my house. And I turned my house and my very patient girlfriend at the time into, all of a sudden, there was 5 engineers and 4 salespeople, and our living room was gone, and we had desks, and people were, I don't do this, people were dipping into cups, and she was getting agitated, I guess is the right way to say. And we were all, it was very hot. I don't think we had air conditioning, but it was a very fun summer. And I basically remember, I've always been a banker at Wells Fargo. I went to Wells Fargo and got another credit card and racked up like $30,000 on it. And we ended up, I don't know why I had to put it all on my card. Those guys still owe me money, I think. But we ended up having an opportunity we built up our business slightly, and we had an opportunity to sell it to another company. And basically I was going to get my money back, and we're going to have good jobs and try to blow out this merchant account business. And we just didn't want to go to Arizona, was the truth. We couldn't leave Manhattan Beach. So we decided to pass on that deal, and that's when I met my USC friend, Brian Sullivan, and decided to raise, instead of using our money, I got smart enough to realize, hey, other people might invest. And that's when we did. I hooked up with this great PR person in Los Angeles and helped him with his business plan and kind of started our first money-back venture. But definitely learned a lot. My wife was very patient. Thank you, Jill, for having the patience and putting up with that. And it was a great experience because you learn the A to Z to starting a company. I'm like, what? I have to file this LLC, and I gotta pay this, and what's taxes, and it was kind of crazy learning all this stuff. But until you do it, I always worked at other places, which I described earlier. We were kind of on our own, doing it ourselves, and making sales calls, setting up business lines, and really just pounding the pavement to get deals to help clients to set up their own online stores.
And you had a lesson that we talked about equity. Some people just don't want to give it away. They want to hoard it. They sort of negotiate, and may lose a deal. Can you talk about sort of that, without shifting forward to MySpace and Beachmint, but your experience in making a deal, getting it done, and moving on, and giving away a part of the company for not a huge amount of money.
Great transition. So after, I was still a loser because I spent $110 million. We didn't have a winner. I got my girlfriend agitated because my apartment turned into a frat house, and I was ready to start a new company. And after Extra, I went bankrupt. Me and Chris again, and I brought over a lot of great people over to Extra, who I work with to this day. Decided, hey, we want to start. We kind of understood how to acquire users, and by spending all that money, we did actually learn a few things too. How to get a lot of users to our website, how to monetize users, and we started our own marketing company called ResponseBase. And we're like, man, how are we gonna? We didn't have any money. How are we gonna do this? And through a friend of a friend, and all his kids go to SC now. Again, it's a common theme. He's like, hey, I'll give you guys $300,000, and we're like, great. But he's like, but I want 51% of your company, and we're like, oh. But we had to do it, and we didn't have a winning venture yet. So just a check to pay the next 6 months for us to survive and quit our jobs and really go for this marketing company, which turned out to be a winner, and we had a great outcome. We actually sold it for a very, this guy took $300,000. He probably made over $5 million off of one investment in a year. And we, of course, that could have been our equity, but we divvied up the rest, and it was a nice outcome. But the lesson was, and I always tell people this, people are so concerned about equity and ownership, and it's so much more important to have the right just to get a winner, and whatever it takes. If you have to give up half your company, I always tell people just do it if you don't have a winner yet, because once you have one winner, it's so easy to make other winners and get other people to back you, and there's so much more excitement around you and your team that the most important thing is just to get one win done. And if it's divvying up your equity with other partners to help you get that win, or if it's divvying up and giving an investor an unreasonable. That's why that's so. I thought we were in Shark Tank earlier. Because Shark Tank's pretty interesting because there's a lot of that going on over there too. But it's true. You do have to get that first win.
Yeah, and without that $300,000, you may not have had a business. You may go back to your regular job. So let's talk about before, as MySpace sort of comes into being. What did you see was happening, in trends and blogging? With Friendster and Evite and Craigslist, what did you really sort of see happening that gave you an idea that this could be something to manifest into MySpace?
Yeah, kind of throughout my career, and now it's like into the entrepreneurial journey, having a company and having a small exit. We were still aware of macro trends, what was going on in the world. This is back in 2003. We saw. It wasn't even called blogging yet. People were expressing themselves. They're called there's something called Live Journal. They're called journals, online journals, which is now blogs. And it was just getting widely popular. And then there was this site called Friendster. I don't know if anyone remembers that one, but I don't know if you guys even remember MySpace, but maybe some of you guys do. Friendster was the site. All of a sudden I got like 15 invites to the site. Most of the time it didn't work, which I'm like, man, this could be interesting. And at the same time, Craigslist got super popular. And me and my partners were like, this is going to be so many people in droves were expressing themselves online. And that's kind of how we got the idea for MySpace, honestly. We had a list of URLs from old companies we had when we were at XDrive. When we spent all that money, we ended up buying some of the URLs. And one of the names was MySpace, and everyone's like, that's a weird name. I'm like, let's just use it for now. It's simple and short. And it ended up staying. That was the name we ended up going with. And it was actually an online hard drive company like Dropbox and XDrive, and originally. So we used that, and it was just really ingesting what was going on in the world of Friendster. And second mover advantage, there's something to it. We got to learn a lot, and a lot of it has to be just being aware of what's going on in the marketplace and finding the right competitive advantage. They were really trying to aim towards a dating site, and they were deleting like musicians and DJs and models. And we're like, God, these are the best marketers. We kind of went the opposite way and embraced all these people. And we're like, you don't just have to have one profile picture, let people do whatever they want. And it turns out a lot of these people are actually the best marketers because you get one band to your site. The bands have more followers and they're more passionate about us doing online marketing. They're the best marketers, and so are DJs and so are models. So we kind of let them join our community and took advantage. The other thing is, frankly, their technology didn't work. So we got very lucky where we were able to find the biggest influencers on Friendster. And this guy named Tom, who was MySpace Tom, everybody's first friend, does exist. And we all had, there's 5 of us partners, and he was the only one that wasn't married. and nor had kids. I was able to stay up all night. So we decided, hey, you're going to be everyone's first friend. And he's probably the least social out of all of us, but it was because he went to work at like 3 p.m. and stayed up all night, went to bed like at 7 a.m. So we're like, you're dealing with all these, you're going to go recruit all these Friendster hot models, tough job for him. One at a time, come over to MySpace, and you're everyone's first friend. That was pretty much his first major two functions.
And what was the vision for MySpace? Just sort of give us, what was MySpace, its purpose and goals, and how did it operate?
Yeah, obviously we had no idea of what we were going to create. And the first goal we set up at the time was, hey, let's just create a community where anybody, and it kind of carried throughout until we sold it, where people could just express themselves any way they want. So it's all about expressing yourselves online, create a profile. We had wacky, ugly pages. People were like pimping it out and making it wacky colors. We're just like, we didn't care. Let the users in the community do whatever they want, was always kind of the mindset. And let's make it not to overcomplicate the features, but let's just give users what they want to do. Users wanted to post classifieds. Users wanted more photos. So we kept it pretty simple on what our community really needed and what kind of tools they needed to express themselves and to get their followers there. So that was kind of the initial plan was, hey, let's create, I don't even know if it was called, I don't even think it was a term called social networking, but let's create a portal. Portals were hot and cool back then. There was Yahoo and InfoSpace and a bunch of AOL, and a bunch of others. So let's create a portal, because we didn't have the word social networking yet. That's social portal. So that's where we started. And it was a pretty interesting journey.
So interesting to hear you say these things. Like to you guys, you're like, yeah, that seems obvious because you've grown up and lived through Facebook. But these concepts were so revolutionary to sort of give the user the power to customize things and make it your own personality, invite people you want. You're right, Friendster was down most of the time. It was so rudimentary, it didn't have sort of that personality. So it's just so interesting, shift 10 years difference in their experience versus our experience. So take us through original team members. Who was Tom Anderson and how did you find him?
So MySpace Tom, people ask if we made him up because he never goes out, but he does exist. And at our previous company, XDrive, we needed, we were burning, as I explained, quite a bit of money, and we're like, man, we're not monetizing it as well as it could. It's probably the user experience. So I was smart enough, I put thinking back to my high school days, how I found a lot of my jobs, I made flyers and posted them in telephone poles around Santa Monica, said QA testers needed $10 an hour. So all of a sudden we filled up a room with about 20 or so folks, and we got this paper from one of them. It was unbelievable. This guy was smarter than any of us executives. He told us exactly where it was fucked up, what was wrong with our site, why people weren't coming, and why people were leaving. And his name was Tom Anderson. We're like, which one of you guys is Tom Anderson? And he's like, me. And we're like, okay, you're hired. Get over here. And that's how we discovered him. And probably like in 3 months, we realized he's smarter than any of us. And he's got a crazy story too. He dropped out of high school. He took this random test that was the SAT, and he got a perfect score and ended up going to Berkeley. And then the reason we found him, he was teaching English to Taiwanese students, and he ran out of money, came back to Santa Monica and saw our flyer. So it's weird how the whole thing worked out. I don't know if Tom would probably kill me for telling that story, but only at USC. We ended up finding him and just discovering this amazing talent. Again, going back to being aware and understanding, I employ, at the time, at MySpace, we employed 1,500 people. Today, I employ 100 people. But we find and we're exposed to amazing people, because I know I'm not the smartest person at my company by far. Maybe top half, I don't even know about that. But we discover amazing talent all the time, promote, have them take over huge important things of the company. Literally, this guy from the street that ran out of money from Taiwan that was living on someone's floor, like, you're going to be partners with us. And we made him he was a full partner in all our ventures after that. And we're lucky to have him. And that's kind of how we discovered Tom. Talking about team, there's 5 of us that started MySpace. There was Chris, who I went to business school with, myself, this guy, Tom, and this other person named Aber. None of us were technologists, so we found an amazing technologist from Seattle, of all places. He went to UW. He was very excited. He was at the Super Bowl. I don't think he went your style, but he was there. Big Seahawk fan. And again, found this great technologist, and none of us knew how to do technology, so we decided to make him a partner, come join us. We just like working with this person, and he's super talented to this day, very successful. And then there was a 5th person that was a USC undergrad, great business developer, salesperson, Colin DeJaro, who joined us as well. So, you have some equity and we decided, instead of Chris and I just divvying it up, to, hey, we got a bigger team, let's all divvy it up. And of course, investors got a piece of the pie. But we felt like collectively, we all knew our strengths, our weaknesses, relied on each other. And there's no way any of us would say we'd be successful if we didn't have all 5 of us. It would have been impossible. It's like playing a basketball game with 4, not 5 guys. Like, we would have just gotten crushed in so many ways. We all relied on each other, and it's kind of what led us to become successful.
It's a great story about the importance of team and not getting carried away with giving equity. You know, there's always sort of inflection points or times at which you sort of realize you're onto something special. You mentioned sort of a quick story, you know, in looking at what other online platforms were coming up, like Match and other things. How did you know, like, just from anecdotal information, that maybe this is something that really has the possibility to take off?
There's a couple things. Interestingly enough, MySpace, there's 2 things I remember that I knew we were going to do something, and I thought it was going to be something pretty interesting. We got a lot of our early adopters were the hot import car community and these models in Orange County. And I'm not super into cars, and I don't know how to, like, even put, you know, brakes on or spinning rims or anything, but these people were amazing, enthusiastic. So I went to this hot import car show and met all these models, and the amount of people that were just crazy screaming to get on their MySpace pages just blew me away. I had no idea, like, we had this community. I knew there was a huge community of users that were super into their cars, and they're, you know, tricking out their cars, and these beautiful models, which is always good to get on your site. I was there, but until I went to these, and I ended up going to probably like 35 of these down to Orange County to these hot import car shows, just because we just really wanted to get our early adopters. And I just was shocked at how wild they were, and the lines around the corner to get their MySpace picture with them so they could be on MySpace was. I'm like, my God, we created something pretty interesting. The second story, which is also an interesting one, I think I'm a terrible golfer, so I was at the golf range trying to figure the sport out. I gave up, well, I still surf, but my father-in-law loves golf, so I figured, man, I better learn the sport. But I was at a golf range in Santa Barbara somewhere, and I overheard the UCSB kids are like, hey, are you on Match still? Are you doing Match? And they're all talking about dating, of course. What guys do. They're outside, they're golfing, they're talking about dating. The guy's like, why would I be on Match when I could get laid for free on MySpace? So I'm like, whoa, all right. So I overheard that. They had no idea I worked there. But so I don't know if I'm supposed to say that. But anyways, that's a true story. And I'm like, man, people are really, and, you know, of course we were free, we were advertisement based. So I felt like, hey, there's going to be a lot of people coming on over. And you know, it did turn, we just had to keep feeding the community the tools where they could kind of spread the word for us. Because our business model was, you know, we're not charging customers. We never want to charge customers for anything. And we want to make our money through, you know, these fancy guys at Procter & Gamble and all these advertisers, and these studios could pay us to market to the community. But how the best way to grow is through word of mouth and having people tell. To this day with my current company too, that's my same belief and philosophy.
And the growth was just astronomical. What did you grow to in terms of users?
Jeez. Over 100 million users, multiple billions of page views. We peaked, I think one year, I don't know if this is good or bad, there's a sub-story to this, after we sold, we did over $1 billion in revenue. Quite a bit, we had 1,500 employees, so there was a lot of amazing metrics. We were able to get internationally, but it grew very quickly. It was probably in 3 years, and early on, we're sitting in a company that's still around today called J-Date. It's called MatchNet. They might have a few other dating properties. Like, man, everybody is dating on this site. And they try to buy us right when we started because we had some inflection points. And this was right when I went to one of those hot import car shows around the same time. So I knew we had something pretty interesting. They're like, hey, we'll give you guys $30 million if you sell us your company. And me and my friends are like, oh my God, are you crazy? That's amazing. And I looked at my technologist, I'm like, does this site really work well? And he's like, kind of iffy. So we're like, okay, we'll take it. So we told them, all right, we'll do the deal, get your money ready, and let's figure this out in 30 days. So day 29, I'm like, okay, we're closing tomorrow. And the guy calls me and goes, we don't have the money. So I was very lucky. I was kind of bummed at the time because I thought I'd be a millionaire. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, man, we got to actually work pretty hard and keep this thing going. But it's interesting how you have all these, choices in life and paths, and that one just luckily for us didn't work out.
So this all happened in a really short period of time, 2003 to 2005. That's not that long of a time period to get that amount of growth, get that amount of interest. So J-Date makes you an offer. You'd be pretty excited to get it, and it was for how much?
$30 million.
$30 million. And fast forward, less than 2 years, you wind up selling MySpace to Fox. And how much did they pay?
They paid $600 million. So
good choice.
Good 2 years. Good 2-year run. So yeah, you just don't know, and it just had to do with the community we had, the people we had on our team, and the ability to execute, and really the feature roadmap. And we also had an awesome opportunity to meet and get exposed to Rupert Murdoch and Pete Chernin, and these people are just like Ben is and Guthrie and Ranker is, amazing, the most amazing business leaders, and you just can't learn enough from being in rooms with these people. And so that was part of the excitement as well. Obviously the price tag was pretty good. It was very political because we had, God, it seems like everything I do we had a very complicated structure, to say the least. We were part of a team that sold a previous company to a public company. So we were a smaller group inside a public company, and the public company was a little wacky. There's a lot of issues going on, and they had their own board, and our company was on fire, and we wanted to get some independence. So there was a lot of excitement and a lot of different points. At one point, they weren't so sure they wanted to keep funding this because our growth was high, and I wasn't smart enough to get enough sales to the business yet, so we were burning a little bit of money, and they were freaking out, like, we don't know if we have enough money to fund this. And in fact, I think at our peak weekend, I called up, I think it was EMC, and we had to order, because our site was it was super slow. And Aber, my technologist, was like, we got to get these servers in. Like, you don't understand. Like, we have to wire them. Like, I think it was 300 grand. And we didn't control the bank account. We weren't the majority holder. So I was telling my parent company, this thing's growing, it's going crazy. I need 300 grand. And they're like, we're not giving you 300 grand. So we were like, well, I had to explain to them, if you don't give us 300 grand, like literally the site was slower every single day. And it was a whole like a weekend board meeting dilemma. We didn't know if we were going to be in business. And we're like, hey, they don't fund it. We'll just figure out how to get the assets and keep going. And we'll be down for a little while. But we were like so nervous. We didn't want any downtime. We wanted a smooth user experience. And there's some really smart people, actually people that speak here today, Rich Rosenblatt and Brett Brewer, that kind of rallied to our side and were able to kind of convince the rest of the guys to get it done. And they actually did wire the check, and we were able to keep on chugging away.
That's day-to-day life of a tech company. So we're gonna shift to Beachmint in a second, but you sold it to Fox. It is sort of a full circle moment because he worked at Fox early in his career. It's an important part of his career arc. How long did it take Fox to negotiate, agree upon, and sign and close the deal?
This was an interesting deal. You talk about a multi-billion-dollar company, one man, Rupert Murdoch, who could just make decisions happen. To back up, the asset was growing big. We were part of a public company. We're talking to the guys at Viacom for about 6 months about buying our company. We're all excited. We were like partying with the MTV guys. This is gonna be the next MTV and MySpace and Viacom, and it was such a great fit. But they were so slow through procedures and approvals, and telling the same story 15 different times in all these meetings. And Rupert got wind, and he had an idea of what his vision would be on the internet and his internet strategy, and got an idea like, hey, this company is in talks with kind of one of his competitors. So he met us on a Tuesday and said, I'll pay you guys this, so this we didn't even negotiate this, I'll pay you $600 million if you could agree to close the deal on Sunday. So, on one hand, I'm like spending 6 months with a big corporate entity. On the other hand, it's another big corporate entity, but one leader that can, ultimately, make the decision. And we're like, so he gave it to us Tuesday night. Wednesday we said, you have a deal? And Thursday, there's about 85 of us in Century City at, I don't remember the law firm, but at some law firm, we were all negotiating with the News Corp lawyers, and I slept there for 3 nights and finished it Sunday, and it was announced Monday. Fun week.
That's unheard of.
Fun week.
Unheard of. Unheard of. And so all this thing is happening in your life, these 3 years of incredible growth, this incredible story, success on a level that most people can never even contemplate. But that wasn't even the most inspirational thing going on in your life. What else happened during those years?
That is true. 2003 is the year we started MySpace. It's a year I didn't sleep, and the reason why is I also had triplets that year. So people always say, what's the most inspirational thing that happened? And it's definitely not MySpace, the fact that I actually had 3. And I was looking at odds, and all I wanted was 3 healthy, and I was very lucky. I have 3 healthy, amazing children that are now 11, which is the most inspirational thing that happened to me. And that year, I don't remember much, but I know we started MySpace and we worked crazy hours, and in parallel, I had 3 tiny little preemie babies born at St. John's here, and it was just, it was a wild ride for 2003, and it was definitely the most inspiring thing, important thing that's happened to me. My kids actually are celebrating their 11th birthday this weekend, so you were enjoying the Super Bowl. I did have got 11-year-old girls, man, tough. Sleepover. I don't really call it a sleepover. Nobody sleeps. But I was doing that, and this weekend I'm going back to Magic Mountain with my boys who are now 11. So
that's great.
Quite exciting.
That's great. All right, well, let's shift to Beachmint and talk about that, since that company's in the news a lot. It's got a lot of attention. Again, you started noticing another macro trend. What was that?
So you talk about second mover, and actually it was the person that you showed earlier who I think is an amazing entrepreneur, is Ben. And really, when I started Beachmint, I was on an earn-out at Fox, knowing what I needed. I knew I wasn't going to stay there that much longer, so I was thinking about what to do next, looking at macro trends in the marketplace. And one of the things that was really interesting to me was the growth of companies like Gilt Group, Avant Privé, Rue La La, Groupon. A lot of people are shopping now online. And even today, online shopping, a lot of us are probably in the right demo. A lot of us might shop online. Still only 6% of all sales in the country are done online. 94% still at Walmart, Target, Macy's, Sephora, etc. So I think there's a huge macro, luckily, tailwind, so we can't mess too much stuff up, heading in our right direction. And I knew online shopping was going to grow. And then I started looking around at which companies have been super successful. It turned out Guthrie Ranker was a perfect example. They're here in LA. These guys leverage influencers and celebrities. We saw Brooke Burke and Jessica Simpson. Again, I might have borrowed from Ben. Maybe he was agitated, but I signed him up to do some stuff online. And I just love their model, which is proactive and meaningful beauty, and Windsor Pilates and Chaz Dean. They created their own brands and were able to market those brands through infomercials. And I'm like thinking, man, to sell Prada jeans or Diesel or Levi's is going to be so difficult and competitive because there's really little margin to be an affiliate. So I looked at what they were doing, and I'm like, wow, we could do this, their model, online, and have people buy it through Facebook, through our sites, and come up with their own brands. So that was really how we started Beachmint. Was, hey, I wrote a business plan saying, I think we started with apparel or sweaters, ended up pivoting and going to jewelry first, which is another interesting story, but which I'll share in a second. But I just felt, again, hey, at a macro level, a lot of people are going to come online and shop online. And we wrote a business plan, and again, gave up this time with about a third of our company to get the initial funding in and to get started.
How many rounds of financing have you done so far?
We've done 4 rounds of financing.
And in total, if you don't mind sharing, how much have you raised?
I can say we didn't raise 110. That was the first time out. That was back in '99. So it's a little bit more soft than that. We have raised $80 million, though.
$80 million.
Yeah.
And we saw the sizzle reel at the beginning. Should we take a look at the commercial that you guys
Yeah,
put
we're
together?
super excited. It's been 3 years again. I love that number, 3 years. We've been able to create amazing people and establish amazing partnerships, and we're so pumped up. I was telling Ben earlier, we're now able to not only market online, but offline and television as well. So again, it's not only about my team, I'm leveraging my partner's team. There's a shoe company in Montreal called Aldo. They have a few stores too, amazing private company. And they're incredible, and we struck a deal with them last year, and they make all our shoes for us under our name, Shoemint. And there's been our product has been so well received in the marketplace. Our community is very rich. Same with our jewelry and shoes are definitely our top 2 categories. And it's just, we have so many fans, and we're able now to market online. So you're asking me what I could bring in. We're super excited because we're just going live with this commercial. And you mentioned all the money I raised. I'm going to spend. Hopefully I'll spend it in a good way where I get a good return. We're going to put a lot of that money to work in the marketplace in television. So it's not just about being aware to advertising online. I think there's a lot of people that are still, there's a ton of people, QVC, maybe people don't shop on QVC or Home Shopping Network, but QVC does $9 billion a year on women watching QVC and ordering jewelry from Joan Rivers and going online and picking up the phone. I'm like, God, how's that happening still? But I think we're gonna, catch up there, and a lot of that will transition. But there's still a lot of eyeballs watching TV, and it's still an effective marketing tool for us. So go ahead and roll it. We created this.
For some, jewelry is the outfit.
So you want to know just how I feel about you.
Just ask the millions of Jewelmint fans who've already discovered their favorite pieces. Find endless ways to express your style at unbelievable prices. Go to jewelmint.com today and get new collections every month. Pieces starting at just $29.99 and free shipping. Plus, for a limited time, get 25% off your first piece.
Thank you. Actually, I said shoes, but jewelry we're going to do online for both. I thought we sent you the shoe one, but it's just as good. And jewelry and shoes, again, are our biggest category, so we're now able to market that online. And the key to us, just like back in MySpace days, is got to give users amazing value. We noticed when we started the company, I was walking around, I walked into Macy's, I walked into Fred Siegel, I walked into Kitson, and all their jewelry was like $100 or $80. And I just noticed this stuff, and a mutual friend of mine, he makes jewelry. I go, how much does this stuff cost? And he goes, oh, it costs $30. Because I was thinking of starting this business. I'm like, $30? I go, okay, so they buy it for 30 and sell it for 80. I'm like, that's pretty good. And then I'm thinking, I think this guy's ripping me off. I go, no, how much does it cost you to make it? And he goes, oh, $3. So I'm like, wow. So people out there are going to Macy's and buying jewelry for $90 that actually costs $3. I'm like, that's pretty uncool. That's not that fair. So I felt like being online and being on the internet, we could kind of disrupt that and sell things. You mentioned insider pricing, but we could sell everything we do is at wholesale prices because we don't have to have rent, and we don't need, because we're online. So our shoes that sell everywhere for like $150, literally we could offer them for half the price. So our shoes are $80, and our jewelry sells for $100 or $90. We could sell for $30. So again, our consumers get great value, great product, real leather, real suede, and they're enjoying it and spreading the word. So I think we're hopefully onto something good. I know myself and my teammates, again, actually one of my partner, I didn't talk about this yet on this journey. I have the most amazing partner. He's not quite in his 40s, he's actually in his 20s. And I decided to partner up with him on this venture. And again, talking about finding a diamond in a rough, I was at News Corp. We had a lot of employees, and this guy Diego just blew me away on how bright he was, his product sense, his passion. I'm like, I'm just going to partner with this guy Diego, who I just hired, and met him through a Facebook really close friend. Another great story, actually. And Diego now teaches at SC as well. So both of us are very much passionate about giving back to USC. And to about our current journey. And we're super excited about this one.
That's exciting. So get your questions ready. We're going to come to you in a minute. Why don't we just cover a couple challenges that you face in Beachmint. If it was easy, someone else would have done it before you, right? It's not easy. So maybe two big challenges that you face in a business like this.
Yeah, I mean, man, it is, for me, understanding retail and understanding merchandising, I had no idea how difficult it was. I truly underestimated how important merchandising is. I'm like, wow, I could just make jewelry and sell it online. It doesn't matter. I could put up anything, but it really, truly does matter. There's a reason why, Prada's Prada and Levi's is Levi's and AG's, because these people have amazing creative merchandisers. So I completely underestimated that in our first year or so. Now I've brought on amazing merchants inside my company that are just running the company, making all the decisions, merchandising the product. So it's one thing you think and you have the right team. I had myself and Diego, and we're like, we got the product thing nailed, and we know how to drive users, and we know how to keep the site up. But we're like, oh, we could just get the right product. We really underestimated how important that was. So that was one thing. And now, I think we've hopefully made amazing hires about 18 months ago. So now it's all moving the company in the right direction. And the other thing I didn't realize, and you hear it to this day, is I underestimated how critical in the business model inventory is. And you hear that a lot, and taking inventory risk and buying sending somebody $1 million for all these shoes, and now I got to sell them. And if I don't sell them, I'm buying them for $40, selling them for $80. If I can't sell them, I'm pretty much in bad shape, and it ruins the whole business model. So I'll launch 10 new shoes in a month. Now I can launch 30 at the time, and like 5 would sell out and be gone, which is like, wow, we just sold out everything we had. But 3, I can't sell, and I'm stuck with it. And so as much profit as I made on the 5, the 2 losers screw up my whole plan for the month. So I kind of learned, like, man, I gotta find partners and not take as much inventory risk. So again, talking about equity diversification earlier, risk diversification, I learned a lot about, and a lot about inventory, kind of the hard way. And now we found amazing partners that have diversified our risk portfolio.
Excellent answers. Well, you're going to talk about those partners, I'm sure, in some of these questions. Who's got questions for Josh?
My name's Ilion. How do you think MySpace lost its competitive advantage to Facebook?
Did they? No, they did, big time. It's a great question. I'm a big fan of actually Facebook. Super bullish when they went public. Super bullish today, actually, what's going on Facebook. You hear mixed things, but I'm a really big fan. I think what Facebook does and what we used to do is all about the product, all about listening to the users. Their product roadmap is exactly what the users want. They started their news feed, their activity feed after we sold, and we're like, this thing is exactly what our community wants. They want the activity feeds. And at the time, it was a little more challenging because we're part of a big public company, and we had to hit this $1 billion revenue target. So we're talking to Glamour and Procter & Gamble and Crest toothpaste about doing pages and channels for them, whereas our competitor, which we knew was the right thing, was just all they cared about was listening to their users and coming up with more and more killer features. And they're smart. They purchase companies like Instagram, which is an amazing company as well. So I think, again, it only comes back to the users, and the product, I think, is the most important thing. And I think that's where they've gained a huge competitive edge and have obviously created amazing value for themselves and their shareholders. Whereas MySpace, not to say that we were so smart, but after we got bought out, we all were kind of working on other projects. We had the shiny new car. Other people, executives were worried, and because they had to hit certain revenue targets, we're focused on revenues versus user experience. I don't know how I do this. I do this fair way. Oh, she's doing it much better.
Just want to say thanks for coming in today. Awesome story. But I had a question about Facebook too, and where do you see them going in the next 10 years, especially since its recent trends have been showing that they're losing their younger generation. It's kind of becoming an older social networking device.
Yeah, I think today, these days, I spent all my time studying commerce and shopping, so I'm not as detailed as I used to be about social networking. But I can say this: I think they've made incredible acquisitions with companies like Instagram. I think you'll see a lot more very smart, innovative acquisitions, and I also think they're going to develop and keep up and be at the forefront of creating new technologies. There's companies down here, Snapchat, another company, Whisper, amazing companies that are kind of getting the younger audience on board, and I think they know that, they recognize that, and they're smart enough to either partner up or acquire these type of technologies to constantly. They started in colleges, and I know that's where they want to be, and I think they'll be there. So I think 10 years from now, there'll be 3 companies none of us, hopefully someone in here thinks of, that starts. And certainly Pinterest, Instagram, Snapchat didn't exist when I was here 3 years ago, and now they're all amazing companies. So I think 3 years from now, there'll be 3 more amazing companies. Facebook will probably either own one of them, just like they own Instagram, or create one. So that's why I think they'll keep innovating, and they have quite a bit of eyeballs. And I think, I was talking about QVC, but I do think even looking at shopping, like why can't people hang out on Facebook or Instagram or Pinterest like one Friday afternoon and start shopping there instead of QVC? I think a lot younger demographics will start doing a lot more commerce, a lot more things online, and it's only going to benefit the whole landscape of companies like Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, et cetera.
Thank you. Hello. Hi, I'm Fedi. and it's another question with regards to Facebook as well. Just really quick. So you were mentioning that back in the day that they went ahead because you guys were focused on the revenue while they were focused basically on the user. But I'm sure that the company like MySpace saw that there was this upcoming competitor in the market who might potentially disrupt everything. So what was their initial reaction, and how were they trying to fight back, or how did they wind up not being able to take them down? Because like eventually, I mean, you guys had all this backing, all this financing institutions behind you, and Facebook was just a small startup.
Yeah. You know what? Honest answer is Rupert tried to buy him. He saw it coming, and he tried to buy YouTube as well, and they're both public. He aggressively met with Mark, and Mark really just did not want to be part of a bigger company, kind of had his own roadmap, and he was very aware of the growth and how exciting people were getting on Facebook. And he tried to do something, and the person, very smartly so, wouldn't sell. And you see a similar thing with Snapchat today. They got a great offer from Google, and Evan's like, no, I'm not selling. He has a definite plan in place. And some people are like, you're crazy not to sell. And some people are like, Mark, how could you not sell? You'll be a billionaire. But he's like, no, I want to do this. So again, passionate entrepreneur, which I applaud, I love. I wish I had that kind of, man, I try to sell for 30 million. I wish I had that kind of dedication. But some people do. And again, people are passionate and different about different things. So they were definitely well aware of it, and they saw it coming, and they're like, oh my, and they're bummed out. And same thing with YouTube. They try to purchase YouTube, and I think YouTube's on a tremendous growth trajectory, and Google got them. And it's great for Google, and Google's a monster company, and just like Facebook, I think there's going to be a lot more coming out of Google as well.
For all of the time you've For all the time you spent analyzing macro trends in the past, I was just wondering, do you have any insights into what might be the developments of the future?
Good question. Besides people shopping online, which is the most important, I think, I actually do think I just see more and more people using the tablets, and like under our performance on, if it's Android devices, different than the desktops. Like everyone's been talking about mobile, there's so many interesting technologies that are being developed for privacy, for encryption, just for transaction, even shopping. I think there's incredible amount of opportunity there. There's some amazing companies that are just apps that are just crushing it, and I think we'll see more and more of that. Like if you have an idea for an app, it's amazing what could become of that app, and that wasn't available 2 years ago. And now you're seeing a lot of monetization, and the usage is only going to go up from there. So I think, again, looking today, I'm so focused just on shopping, and I just think there's going to be so much of a migration. I don't think people are going to walk into Nordstrom's and like carry a bag out. I think there'll still be a place for that, where they'll be able to try on stuff and interact with their friends. But I think there'll be a lot of apps that are developed to allow that to happen. And then the time they get home, the merch will be at their house. And delivery, I'm big into too. I think companies like FedEx and what Amazon's doing and eBay's doing same day. I mean, Amazon and eBay are both incredible companies. It's just going to get better and better with delivery and customer satisfaction. Customers are so smart now. It's like they understand what deal they're getting. They understand the price they're paying. It's becoming more transparent. It's not like, that's what I want to do too. I don't want people to go to Macy's and find killer fashion items and have to pay retail pricing. We could bring that to consumers. And so I think just the smarter people get, I think you could really create amazing businesses on transparency. And there's still a lot of markets where it's super not transparent. I look at the art market. Art's like, how do you know what this painting is worth? It's kind of crazy. Or your car market, like I'm getting my car fixed, going to the mechanic, am I getting ripped off? I don't know. I mean, there's so many areas and industries where the transparency. One of the companies I love is, and you guys probably know it well, is Uber. I think Uber is bringing transparency and reshaping how we think, not only about car service and commuting, but a whole bunch of different industries. And I'm seeing some pretty amazing stuff around that as well.
Hi, my name is Wesley Faramin. I wanted to know, do you know about the e-commerce site called Mudnique?
I do.
Are they a direct competitor to you? And do you guys also buy at closeout and sell online?
Good question. So actually, I'm in this, you talk about networking, I continue to network. I'm in this group called YPO, Young Presidents Organization, and the CEO of Modern just joined, so I've become really friendly with that team. And and I think Lloyd Greif might have actually got involved in it too, another SC connection. I think what they're doing is different. We're not doing closeout stuff. We do exclusive, on-trend. We know what's coming out. My merchandise team I just talked about, working on everything for this fall. It's incredible. You know, a lot of the inspiration comes from Europe. We get all that. We got that. They ingest that information. They come out with designs that are new, on trend. Where some of these other sites are doing closeout stuff, where they could offer the discounting. We feel like, hey, we could just bring brand new exclusive stuff that's only available on our site. The other thing we didn't want to do is price compare. Like, I don't want Shoemint or Jewelmint. I don't want you to Google search it and be able to price. It's one price. It's, you know, when you Google search it, everything's the same price. So I think that's a little bit of a differentiator. But good company. Huge international presence too. That's one thing we don't have yet is we're only US based today, but I think that's a huge, everything you do, you should think about globally. We're definitely thinking about that, but those guys have done a great job globally where we have not been able to do that yet.
Hello, my name's Carmen, and I was interested to know when you started MySpace as well as Beachmint, it seems like you didn't really have the knowledge about like how to build a website or even how to manage the e-commerce websites. So how do you convert your idea to figuring out what business model would really work?
Great question. You know, again, it goes back to my team. The team around me, my technologists and product people that focus on customer experience and UI. I think the key all comes, starts with the wireframe, the product idea, the product experience. I keep saying product, but I firmly believe that. So luckily, I was able to surround myself. Once we have an idea, we're like, man, these Guthrie Ranker guys are killing it with proactive, and they're making all these commercials, and they're doing $1 billion a year. You know, there's got to be something there. So we, again, try to iterate, write a business plan. We started with, hey, we're going to start. I knew a sweater guy, so I'm going to do a sweater of the month club like J. Crew does, and that's how we started. Then I ended up meeting, Kate Bosworth, who's a great, amazing influencer. We had an opportunity to work with people like Paris Hilton or Kim Kardashian that could endorse stuff. We felt like, no, we want to find real designers that people are passionate about the categories that we go into, and that's what Guthrie Ranker's done as well. Choosing Cindy Crawford to do the fragrance line or the beauty line. So we felt like, hey, Mary Kate and Ashley Olsen are the ones we wanted to work with because they have an apparel company. So let's figure out how to work with them. And from there, it's just about iteration, getting the site up, and getting consumer feedback on like, man, I can't check out right, or these pages load too much, or I want to see a video of how this jewelry would look, or what can I pair it with. So it goes back to let's put up something. Probably like it's probably like a 5 out of 10 where we want it to be. But my view is just get it up, get it going, and just iterate and get feedback, and just be transparent with the community. It's like, hey, I'm just starting, or we think you should wear it with this and this and this. But we also want consumers to tell us what they're wearing it with. And we realize putting up pictures of actresses is one thing. Actually, putting up user pictures is much more impactful, I realized as well. So it's interesting. You just got to get it up there, even if it's a 5 out of 10, and then slowly try to make it better and better.
Hello, my name is Will, and I was wondering, it seems like you guys are doing something very different at Beachmint, and I was wondering like how like the beliefs and culture is at the company, at the startup, and what kind of people you employ.
Great question. All my companies, luckily, super high energy. So it's everybody that comes in there has a passion for what we're doing. If it's e-commerce, if it's the technology, the features that we're on our engineering groups working on, or if it's the merchandise itself. So you'll see when you walk in our office, you'll see photos everywhere of the upcoming collection. Everybody's super excited, wearing the product, knows everything about the product, super educated on what we're doing, what we're trying to accomplish. And you just have that really, really big time excitement at the company. And as we look at people and recruit, we just want to find people that are first and foremost, because we might not pay as much as if you go to Google or go up north, but pretty close. But we just want you to love what you do and meet with a lot of people in the interview process, because it kind of comes across ultimately. I was talking about experiences where I knew I didn't like it, but I did like the people I was working with. A ultimately we wanted you to really enjoy what you're doing. Like from being in those experiences, when people join my company, I really want them to first and foremost, like what they're doing every day and be super passionate about what we're trying to accomplish and shift people over to shop online.
Hi, I'm Jackson. And my question is, I was curious if there was anything you know now, going back, that you wish you could tell your previous self before starting Beachmint or MySpace or any other company, but just something that you know now that you wish you had known back then.
Right. So much. Where do I start? It's, I'd say, I wish I would have gotten earlier on, like even with Beachmint, really understood and spent more time I was going into the retail industry, so I was going into producing jewelry, producing apparel. I wish I would have spent more time earlier on with people in that industry that were just super badass retailers and just sat down with people, even people that started the companies like Lululemon or J. Crew, or get exposure and spend more time with people like that. Because I learned the hard way, like, man, these guys, I would have realized, like, these guys are amazing merchants, and that's what they talk about. I had a chance to work with Steve Madden, who makes shoes. I mean, this guy's he's in that movie Wolf of Wall Street, too, which is a whole other story. But this guy makes amazing shoes, and all he cares about, he walks around when he comes to LA, he's like, meet me at Nordstrom's. He's watching his customers. He knows what's online. He'll sit there and watch what women are trying on, and I wish I would have done that. And it goes back to, MySpace too. We were lucky enough to understand like these hot import car enthusiasts and I was smart enough to like hang around with them enough and embrace them. And I wish I would always keep doing that. So again, not only knowing your customer, just knowing your industry, I think it would have been a huge benefit for me if I had to do it again.
Hi, I'm Andrew. My question is, so with you and Diego are both obviously males, and you're trying to target a female demographic. How are you able to get that perspective into Beachmint and make it, like, tailor it for them?
Yeah, great question. And we only do women's fashion too, because men are a pain in the ass for it. They don't shop online as much as, not yet, but we look at like phones and cars and stuff. But shopping is definitely, we surround ourselves with a board of directors. We have a lot of, our board is 3 outside people and 2 are female. That's brought a lot of influence to us and regiment to us. We also, our executive team, there's many females on our team. The woman that runs our content, the woman that runs our marketing, our merchandising team are all women. Just because not necessarily like men don't know how to merchandise to women. A lot of the most amazing merchants are actually men. But we felt it didn't really matter which gender you're from. We just felt like we were lucky enough where we have both now on our team. So people I report to happen to be women, and the people that I've surrounded my executive team happen to be women.
How early off did you seek that perspective with starting the company?
This question was how early did we seek that? Very early. Some of the first employees we hired, this great woman named Era who ran all our content and production. She went out and got the celebrities. She got the passionate people. Again, I remember I partnered up with Kate Bosworth. I partnered up with Mary Kate and Ashley Olsen, amazing women that knew the industry. Rachel Bilson's my shoe partner. So Brooke Brooks my lingerie partner. So I was able to find people that were passionate about their category and rely on them for the design. Diego and I still don't know how to make shoes. I mean, the truth is I couldn't tell you what shoe's going to be hot, and I probably will never be able to. I'm very aware now. I go out and I watch nice shoes. I watch what women are wearing because it's part of my business. However, I would never like come up here and say, oh man, I know how to make shoes, because in fact, I don't know very little about how to make shoes. I know how to run my company, how to grow our user base, and how to hopefully make it successful, understand the macro trends, but I got to rely on my team that knows how to make shoes, and my partners. Companies like Aldo that does multiple billions of dollars in revenue, and these guys know more about shoes. I went to their headquarters in Montreal talking about what did I wish I would have done more. Wish I would have spent more time with these guys when I started the company. It's incredible how much they know and how many 40 years family business, shoe business, how much I learned just from being in their campus for 3 days or 4 days. So it's again relying on people that know the industry.
Hi, I'm Elena, and I'm curious. Earlier, you kind of mentioned the importance of the interview in your hiring process. What's the most impressive thing that you've seen a candidate do in an interview, and what really differentiates candidates when you are interviewing them?
You know, for myself, to be honest, I'm not interviewing that many people because my team's that good, or they're hiring great people. So, but when I first started, again, it gets, when they talk about stories and what they're doing and how they foresee, like if a candidate really studies the industry and knows like all my competitors and knows what they're doing, they're like, oh, well, Stella & Dot's doing this program and Guild Group's done this and this is what I really like. I'm super impressed because it's hard to keep up with everything and the very little details that some of our competitors are doing. So I'm impressed when somebody comes in, knows the space, knows the industry, and has some really, really deep dive in a few of the competitors and can have a great conversation about it, because then I'm learning something in their interview and I'm gaining some knowledge and I know, hey, this person really cares, they're prepared, and wow, they're pretty knowledgeable about what's going on. So that's probably the characteristic I would always look for early on, and that, and you know, as earlier, the right energy for our group.
Great question. One more? One more. Last one. Because I have one more.
So Beachmint started off with 6 different verticals: home, including jewelry, shoes, home, furniture, and beauty, and then clothing and lingerie. Out of those, 2 of the verticals are gone. Could you talk about how you just eliminated those 2 verticals?
Definitely. It goes back to what I wish I would have known before I started. When we started the business plan, we're like, man, we have this platform. We could go in any vertical. Let's do beauty. Let's do food. Let's do wellness. So we've had our initial business plan. We're going to roll into like 40 categories. And what we realized is how important it is to go deep and to have a team that really knows the space. So we decided about a year and a half ago, let's hire a merchandise team that knows apparel, lingerie, jewelry, and shoes, and to hire a beauty team where you have to do clinicals and before and afters. It was like, hey, we'd rather focus our investment dollars and our energy, because this is a multi-billion-dollar category, so let's not get too distracted, and we're doing a lot of different things. So we made an effort to not do beauty, which is a little bit more complex, and the home decor, actually you have to buy, like a shoe person can't do pillows and tables. It's so specific. So to do home decor, we'd have to bring on another team of home buyers and designers. And we felt, again, similarly, let's focus on what's going really good and what's performing for our company, and double down, triple down on those categories. Not to say that we won't get back into those categories in the future. They're both really interesting. We're talking about markets where I'm buying a couch or I'm buying a rug, and the rug's $5,000, and then the guy just told me it's $2,000. There's so much transparency in a lot of these sites, and there's One Kings Lane, I think, has done a good job, and there's others, but you're talking about opportunities. I think transparency is one thing that I think in the future, in near future, it'll be much more clear to the consumer.
All right, if this thing's still working. I want to finish with one question to you, and then I want to ask them for some feedback, so they'll be ready for that. But I just watched, in preparation for tonight, we watched a couple videos of you, and one where you covered 6 guidelines to entrepreneurship, all interestingly starting with B-E, as in Berman, as in Beachmint. So even though we don't have a lot of time, can you sort of go through some of those and talk about the lessons that you'd like to leave them with?
Yeah, it's funny. I did this not too long ago. Someone asked, what's 5 or 6 key things you could leave somebody with, and it's all around being in the present or being opportunistic. And first thing I said is, be opportune. Like in every situation throughout your career, you guys are all starting out, which is awesome. And probably some of you guys have already been doing some amazing stuff too, but be opportunistic where you are presently. If I'm flipping pizzas or I'm sitting there making copies, just to get myself into the right meetings, exposure to the right CEOs and CFOs was super important, and being opportunistic was good. The other was, you have to be brave to do an entrepreneur something. And me going to Wells Fargo and throwing down 30 grand on my credit card when I have no money and my girlfriend's heckling me for an engagement ring was, not the smartest thing it turned out to be great. But, you got to be brave when you have something or you want to do something, have conviction. Even if you fail, I think that's okay. You got to take chances, and ultimately, you want to be brave and get that first win, which is the third B, is be a winner. No matter what it takes. If you're giving up half your company for a few $100 grand, giving up half your company for the right advisors or partners, you got to become a winner, because I'm telling you guys, after you win once, it's so much easier to do it again. So even if you're a winner and you only end up winning 20 grand, 50 grand, and you create a company, you're going to get funded the next time, or there's that much more of a chance you could do something else. Be aware. Being aware is simply understanding the macro trends that are out there in each of my businesses. I kind of saw what was coming down next. I saw in Beachmint what Guthrie Ranker was doing, and I'm like, man, I'm totally aware of what they've done and what's going on in the space. MySpace, I was totally aware of what Friendster was. Kind of the second mover advantage thing. The other B is be part of a great team. I still believe if I didn't have Diego, Beachmint wouldn't be where it is today. If I didn't have my partners from MySpace, we wouldn't have created what we created. So being part of a great team, that's going to really increase your chances to be successful. And then, the last one is believe and enjoy it. It is, like you said earlier, it goes so fast. The triplets being born in 2003 and MySpace being born and sold in 2 years, you just got to believe in what you're doing, believe in the consumers, find those passionate people, your audience that loves what you're doing, and if there's not enough of them, go find some more, and believe. You got to be the biggest fan of what you're doing, so you definitely got to believe what you're doing. Everyone's your own salesperson. You're going to be constant, like I'm pitching you guys today, and actually I have a code, believe in so much in what I do. It's Josh, that's my name, Josh BFF, like someone said, as Josh Berman, Friends and Family, but it's BFF, a lot of people use now too. So it's Josh BFF, and on any of my sites, I know I have an SC code, so if you put that in a checkout and you want anything, just go there and put that in. I think it's like, I don't know, my engineer, I think he rigged it up at like 40-50% off or something. So I believe so much in what we're doing. If you get our product once, that's the key for me, is we have such good, I believe so much in what we're doing that I just want to get users to try our stuff once. If it's a lingerie item, if it's a shoe, I just believe, and our whole team believes, we just got to sell once and they'll continue to come back. And whatever you're doing, that's just me, my personal journey where I'm at today with Beachmint. But you got to believe what you're working on and what you're doing, and that's how you become successful.
I want to add a seventh, which I guess would be inspiring. And you've been that tonight for us. There's so many things for us to take away. And take that code, Josh BFF. Josh BFF. Tell all your friends. Tell your sororities. I guess your fraternities aren't going to be probably as big in Beachmint. But tell everyone you know. Give it to your sisters, your moms, everybody. We support Josh. We support USC businesses, and we want to make sure that we're part of that.